Welcome to A Minute for God. This brings us to verse 22 from Colossians chapter 3, which gives us some teaching about relationships between slaves and their masters. Back then, most homes had slaves in them, so the Colossian church no doubt had slaves and owners as members. In fact, it was probably the only place in that society that they could get together on the same level without racial or class distinctions. Now, here are some background truths to keep in mind of why the Apostle Paul was writing in this context. At the time the book of Colossians was written, almost 50% of the inhabitants of the Roman Empire were slaves. What we need to understand is that slavery was not a racial issue in the Roman world like it was in our country many years ago. Slaves were usually those groups or nations of people who were defeated militarily. Now, while the Apostle Paul did not call believers to overturn the institution of slavery, these verses did help to bring about change from the inside. The Roman Empire ultimately lost its commitment to slavery as the gospel penetrated further and further into the Roman culture. And more masters and slaves started treating each other like brothers and sisters in Christ. Be sure to join us for our next message as we take a look at relationships in our workplaces.